Hello and happy Wednesday. I hope you're having a good day. So this week's coaching talk, I wanted to talk about nutrition. If you are one of my long-time clients, this is probably nothing new to you, but I wanted to start doing this weekly education to really give you guys the opportunity to just take a quick 5, 10, max 20 minutes to hear something straight from the source and not off of social media or be confused as to what's real or not. And sometimes I'm going to be talking about things I notice everyone I'm coaching is struggling with as a whole, or maybe something that's on my mind or something that's popping up as a trend, and go from there. But I do have a lot of newer clients over the last couple weeks, so I really wanted to talk about nutrition on a very basic, short level. I know that I sent out that nutrition lecture, but I also know it's an hour long, and as a parent and or wife, or if you work, that's just a really long, video to sit down and watch. So I have my notes today so I don't get off track, but I have come up with 6 very important talking points I want to talk about with nutrition. And I also just want to state that in your journey, nutrition is number 1. It's absolutely the most important. Nothing will trump your nutrition. You will see the fastest results with your nutrition. You will change your body composition fastest with nutrition, above working out, above rest and recovery, above everything else. What you put into your body is going to determine your outcome the most. So point number 1 that I want to talk about is calories. Calories are what goes in our body, right? It's what we eat. There's a caloric value in everything that we eat. Even if that value is 0, it still has a caloric value of 0. So a calorie deficiency leads to weight loss. A caloric surplus leads to weight gain. And maintenance calories keep us right in the middle. If a lot of crash diets will put you in a really big caloric deficit. And that's why they work so well, because it's a 500, 600, 800 caloric deficit. You lose a bunch of weight fast, and then it all bounces back because it's not sustainable. The reason we gain weight over time is because we're either in a big surplus or even just a little bit of a surplus. And so over 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, we're gaining weight. And then maintenance calories is just what you need to eat to keep your body exactly where it's at, just to sustain it on a day-to-day level. Okay. So calories determine whether the scale goes up or down. So that's the biggest takeaway you can take here, is the amount of calories I eat will determine whether my weight goes up on the scale, stays the same, or goes down on the scale. Point number 2 I want to talk about is protein intake. And I'll talk a little bit about resistance training, but I'm really going to get into the weeds on that in next week's talk. But remember, protein supports muscle retention and growth. And here's why this is so important. Protein is going to determine what your body looks like as the scale goes up or down. So you'll see a lot of people lose a lot of weight and they're not eating enough protein and they're not resistance training, and they end up with that skinny fat look. I've been there, I've had the skinny fat look, and it's just uncomfortable. If you're working so hard, you want the lean toned look to match all the efforts that you're putting in. So this is one of the reasons why protein intake is so important. Protein also improves recovery, because what we're doing in the gym is we're actually tearing down our muscles. We're making little micro tears in our muscles, and then our nutrition that we eat actually heals that, recovers them, grows a little bit more muscle, and starts to build those lean toned muscles that we want so much. So protein is very important for muscle retention, growth, recovery, and that fullness of having some muscle definition as your weight goes down. Because every single one of you that I coach right now has a goal of weight loss, and a lot of you said you also want to build lean muscle mass. So calories determine whether the scale goes up or down. Protein determines what you look like as the scale goes up and down, along with resistance training. So those are the 2 biggest things. And for those of you that are tracking macros, all that matters right now is that you're hitting calories and protein. Carbs and fats can be interchangeable. You might have a day where fats are really high, carbs are low, but you hit your calories, and then you might have another day where it's vice versa. But the number 1 thing to think about is to consistently hit calories and protein. The next point number 3, is why whole foods matter. Now, I am not a whole food stickler and saying processed foods are bad and you can never eat them. And like, I just feel like in our culture, that's just not real life. However, I do want to stress that especially on this journey, whole foods are important because they provide our micronutrients. Our micronutrients are our vitamins and our minerals. These are the things that help our hormones function as best possible. They also help with recovery. They help with everything going on as we're on this weight loss journey to make ourselves better. So, whole foods provide those micronutrients, our vitamins and minerals, to help us along the way. Also, whole foods have higher volume, so this improves fullness. So, I did, in volume wise, I did 3 cups of strawberries. It was watermelon. It was 250 grams of watermelon the other day, and it was 50 calories. If I did that with Oreos, mac and cheese, that's my kid's favorite. We were just having it the other day. Pizza, anything else. If I had 3 cups of a more processed food, just cereal, then it would be in the 1,000, 2,000 calorie range, right? Like, depending on what it is, we are bulking up there, okay? So whole foods have a higher volume and improves fullness. Also, whole foods are going to lend in better digestion, better energy, better recovery, and just improved feelings overall along the journey, which is really important because you're already going to be tired because you're working out. You're mentally sometimes tired of the weight of the things that you have to do in a day because we have to try and get our steps in. We have to hit our calories. We have to hit our protein. Whole foods are going to help with that energy. It's going to help with the satiety. It's going to help you along the way. Okay. Number 4 is we are building balanced meals versus fitting foods in. And this is for the majority of the time. I know some of you are following the meal plan, but for those of you that are counting macros, and I've fallen into this myself, is we fall into the if it fits your macros category. And the problem is the goal is not perfection, okay? And the goal is to build balanced meals to help our bodies feel better overall and to learn habit form. Like oh my gosh, I can't talk. We're building habits to shape long-term results, okay? So the habits of balanced meals versus just if it fits my macros is what's going to sustain your journey far beyond when I'm done coaching with you. Because the idea is to learn how to eat well and what's in my food and the caloric value of it and whether it benefits my body and my goals or not versus just fitting it in. Because there was a craze for a long time where everyone said, if it fits your macros, and there were people that were like, I'm losing weight eating Pop-Tarts and pizza. And yes, scientifically, they were in a caloric deficit, so they were losing weight. However, on the micronutrient side, their gut health was terrible, their sleep was not good, their skin was terrible, just things were falling apart. So that is where we get the 80-20 rule or the 90-10 rule. And it's why I tell you guys 5 days a week at least, we need to have well-balanced whole food meals. Then the other 2 days, you can run it if it fits your macros because we have birthdays, we have graduations, we have anniversaries. So yes, I want to fit the pizza in or the cake in or the drink in or whatever it is, but we need to try and not make that a daily thing. That should be once, twice a week, and the rest of the time, try and build these healthy habits of eating these whole foods and having these balanced meals versus just making sure it fits my macros. Having it fit our macros is that 10 to 20% of the time, and then the other 80 to 90% of the time we're having these full meals that are building the habits for us to sustain this for the rest of our lives. Because I don't do crash diets. I don't do like this is a lifestyle. I'm trying to help you change your life for forever, far beyond when I'm done coaching with you. So again, the goal is not to be perfect. That's why we have the 80-20 or 90-10 rule. Some people like 80-20, some people like 90-10. It just depends on how fast you want to see results. I'm an 80-20 person personally because I've been doing this my entire life, and that brings a lot of balance for me personally. Then point number 5 that I want to talk about is why undereating often backfires. So I've had a lot of people recently with their check-ins, lots and lots of clients, and this always happens. They're undereating, and there's a couple reasons why undereating backfires. Low intake can increase cravings later, and what usually happens is we end up having a night binge or a weekend binge where we've been under eating, and then in our brains we're like, well, I've been under 500 calories every day or 300 calories every day, so it's okay if I eat all this on the weekend, or it's okay if I eat all this tonight. Even if we're tracking it and we know we go over, we try and justify in our heads that it balances out, like it evens out. The problem is it usually doesn't, and the problem also is when we're in that state of craving and just eating, we binge eat hard and we don't always track accurately. And I say that because I'm really guilty of it. With all of my health stuff and everything that's been going on and not sleeping, I am always constantly under eating. And then I find myself at like midnight, 1, 2 a.m. in the morning, being extremely hungry, going out and eating, I can't eat much, but eating saltines or bread. And then I put in like, oh, I had 2 or 3 saltines, but I think about the next day and I maybe had like 8 saltines or 4 pieces of bread, right? And that's an extra 500 plus calories that I just didn't track. So really under eating backfires because on our brain says, oh, we're doing well, we're eating under, we're gonna lose weight faster. And then whenever we have our binge moment, it's usually a pretty big binge and we don't track it accurately. Not because we're trying to be deceitful, not because we mean to, just because our brains like to work that way. Also, under eating can have poor recovery, which impacts our workouts and our consistency and everything else, right? Because if we're not fueling our body for what we're trying to do, then it can't properly perform and give us all the benefits that we need. So therein is the problem of I'm under eating, I'm extra tired, my workout wasn't very good, and our results just begin to lack and lack and lack, and then we binge and we get into this cycle that we can't break. So again, that's why it's really important that we consistently try to hit our calories and protein. Then the last thing with under eating is many people, like I already said this, they unintentionally overeat later or on a different day. I already covered that. So I'm going to move on to the last point, which is point number 6, and it's consistency over perfection. Progress comes from being consistent versus being perfect, and sustainable habits outperform short-term approaches. And that's why the crash diets are so hard. That's why they don't work, because what I'm trying to teach every single one of you is something that you can do every single day for the rest of your life. So yeah, these meal plans are something my family does every single week. We grocery shop on Thursdays because my husband gets paid on Thursdays. So every Wednesday night we sit down together and I ask the kids, they're 5 and 7. I say, what do you want for breakfast this week? What do you want for lunch this week? What do you want for dinner this week? And they throw it all out there, and if it's reasonable, that's what I meal plan for them. Then my husband and I do the same. I cannot eat everything my family eats because of my health issues, but usually my husband and kids all have the same dinner, and sometimes they all have the same breakfast, and then my husband has his own lunches that he takes to work, and my kids have something like chicken tenders with watermelon and cucumbers or something. You know, it's simple. But I meal plan for the entire family for the whole week, and then on Sundays is our off day. It's our cheat day, so to speak, and we do church, and then we go get really good food, and my husband tracks it all. He makes it fit his macros. If I was able to eat that food, I would track it and make it hit my macros. And this is just how we live our life. This is how we've lived our life for a really, really, really long time. And so it's never about being perfect. There are many, many days where I don't hit things or things go a little off the rails, but from years of consistently putting in the work, consistently hitting my protein or being really close, hitting my calories and being really close, I have seen the results for it, and I want that for you guys as well. Because I want this to change your lives for you. I want you to not need me someday. I want you to be educated and know the truth versus the lies on social media and everything you see and hear. And I also don't want you obsessing about being perfect and fall into the trap of, obsessively tracking food and obsessively worrying about it, right? Like, we're trying to find a healthy balance, which is one of the hardest things, because balance in life is one of the hardest things. It's actually really easy to be extreme. Our pastor actually just talked about this on Sunday. but he was saying it's really easy to be extreme about something. It's really easy to go all in, even if it's just for a little while. It's incredibly hard to find balance. So what I'm trying to teach you guys through all of this is balance and truth, so that you know the truth around nutrition versus what's floating around in the air, and that you can learn balance in your life when it comes to all of this. So just remember, you don't need to be perfect to get results. We just need to be consistent. If you guys have any questions about this, you can put a comment, you can message me directly. I hope this helped, and I'll talk to you next week.